Hello, happy believers. The following is a lovely account of the many miracles Jesus performed in Matthew chapter 9, verses 19 to 22. So Jesus got up and went with him, along with his disciples. Suddenly, a woman who had suffered from bleeding for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. She said to herself, "If only I touch his cloak, I will be healed." Reflection. Jesus was walking towards Jairus' house with his disciples when a woman who had suffered from bleeding came up behind Jesus. This is very interesting, as a woman suffering from bleeding would have been an outcast and not allowed to be among crowds. She would have lived an isolated life outside the village and would not have been allowed to touch anyone, as they would then be deemed unclean. In Mark it says that a large crowd followed and pressed around him, Jesus. She was one of the crowd. This woman took a huge risk going among the crowd, fearing that she would be cut out and possibly shamed because of her predicament. But in her heart, she knew Jesus. She knew he would heal her. It says in Mark chapter 5:26, she had borne much agony under the care of many physicians, and had spent all she had, but to no avail. Instead, her condition had only grown worse. She knew this was her only chance to be healed, as she had tried every other option, and had spent all she had on finding a cure, but to no avail. This urged her on to take the risk of a lifetime. In Matthew it says, she came up behind Jesus and touched the fringe of his cloak. She said to herself, "If only I touch his cloak, I will be healed." In other words, she sneaked up behind Jesus because she did not want to be seen. She did not even touch his cloak, only the fringe. This would have meant she was not even standing upright, but stooping as if in hiding. She spent the last 12 years being aware that she was not to touch anyone, as there would have been consequences. Old habits die hard. She had great faith, and she said to herself, "If only I touch his cloak, I will be healed." Her confidence was in her faith. She knew that Jesus could end all this suffering for her and give her a new beginning, a new life through being healed by Jesus. And then she got what she believed in, as Jesus turned and saw her. "Take courage, daughter," he said. "Your faith has healed you." And the woman was cured from that very hour. Her courage, stepping out, and her faith were rewarded. In Mark chapter 5, verse 30 to 34, there is more insight into what happened once she touched the fringe of his cloak. At once, Jesus was aware that power had gone out from him. Turning to the crowd, he asked, "Who touched my garments?" His disciples answered, "You can see the crowd pressing in on you, and yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But he kept looking around to see who had done this. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him, trembling in fear. And she told him the whole truth. "Daughter," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be free of your affliction." Jesus knew someone had been healed. Someone had touched his garments. He more than likely knew who too, but he said, "Who touched me?" She fell down before him, trembling in fear. And we know why. She thought she would get away quietly with her healing. And now she had to explain herself and how she entered a crowd being unclean. It was at that moment that Jesus truly revealed himself to her. She told Jesus everything. She was unsure of what reaction she would get from Jesus or the crowd. She was now the focus of everyone's attention, rather than being rejected. Jesus helped her to speak the truth about her situation. And by owning up to everything, it was out in the open. And she did not have to hide anything anymore, even the truth. "Daughter," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be free of your affliction." Jesus called her daughter, showing how close and intimate she was to Jesus. It was her faith that healed her. She had expected a physical healing, but because Jesus called her out into the open to speak her truth, she also received peace of mind and freedom from her affliction, released from the hurt and the emotional pain that it also caused her. She was now totally free and at peace. Jesus does not do things in half measures. He far exceeded her expectations. She now knew Jesus in all his fullness. Your faith has healed you. Your faith has made you well. Your faith has cured you. Your faith has made you whole. Your faith has saved you. This woman reached out to Jesus in faith, and see what happened. This woman has no name, only referred to as she. Her name could be our name. We can put our name in this event. We can change the situation to one more relevant to us. Men can use their own situations that need healing and put in their name. We can put pen to paper and write our own story and hand it over to Jesus and trust him with it and see what miracle he will do for us. It is all about reaching out to one greater than us and asking for help in faith. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 7. For we walk by faith, not by sight. Matthew chapter 21 verse 22. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive, if you have faith. Luke chapter 1 verse 37. For nothing will be impossible with God. Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 to 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Please like, subscribe and share so we can all live our wonderful Catholic faith together in all its richness. Next painting, very, very soon. Watch this space. Until then, remember, walk by faith.